The desert wind, a constant, abrasive whisper, carried secrets across the barren expanse of Iraq in 2005. But some secrets, it seemed, preferred to burrow deep beneath the scorched earth, only to erupt in a blinding, terrifying display. This is the story of those lights, the tremors, and the unsettling silence that followed. If you're fascinated by the unexplained, by the shadows lurking within military archives, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Black Archive community. Our narrative begins with a routine, yet critical operation. Sergeant First Class Carter, an Army engineer with a decade of experience in surveying and construction, led a small team. Their mission? To install an advanced network of seismic and acoustic sensors near a remote outpost in the western Iraqi desert. The objective was clear: detect insurgent activity, specifically tunnel construction or large-scale troop movements. The sun beat down relentlessly, baking the sand to an almost reflective sheen. Private Lewis, a fresh-faced infantryman assigned to Carter's team for security, was meticulously marking coordinates, his rifle slung across his back. Specialist Ramirez, a seasoned NCO, oversaw the excavation equipment. They had been working for 3 days, the rhythmic thud of the mini-excavator a familiar drone against the vast quiet. Then, on the afternoon of the 4th day, as the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues, something shifted. Carter, leaning over a newly dug trench, felt it first. A low, resonant hum, not from the machinery, but from beneath his feet. It vibrated through the soles of his boots, a deep thrumming that seemed to bypass bone and settle directly in his gut. He frowned, scanning the horizon. Nothing. No approaching vehicles, no distant artillery. The hum intensified, a growing pressure against the earth itself. "Ramirez!" Carter called out, his voice sharp. "Kill the engine!" "What's that?" Ramirez, already reaching for the kill switch, looked up, a puzzled expression on his face. The excavator sputtered to a halt, plunging the immediate area into an eerie silence, broken only by the wind. But the hum remained, a subterranean pulse. Then a flash, a vivid electric blue light, momentarily blinding, erupted from the very trench Carter had been inspecting. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind a lingering afterimage in their vision. Lewis, who had been positioning a sensor just meters away, stumbled back, his eyes wide. "What the hell was that, Sergeant?" he breathed, his voice barely a whisper. Before Carter could respond, another flash, this one more intense, burst forth, accompanied by a distinct, almost metallic thump from deep within the earth. The ground beneath them shuddered, a short, sharp tremor that made loose sand dance. It felt as if something immense, something powerful, was striking the bedrock from below. Carter, a man of logic and engineering principles, struggled to reconcile what he was experiencing with anything he'd ever encountered. This wasn't an earthquake. This was deliberate. "Everyone secure positions!" Specialist Ramirez's voice cut through the stunned silence, his training kicking in. His hand was already on the grip of his sidearm. "Lewis, get on the radio. Report blue flashes and subterranean impacts. Emphasize subterranean." Lewis, still visibly shaken, fumbled for his comms device. The air crackled with a strange energy, a palpable tension that gripped them all. Carter, ever the engineer, knelt by the trench, his hand pressed against the warm, vibrating earth. The ground shouldn't be warm. Not here. Not like this. He felt the rhythmic beat, like a giant muffled heart. What was hitting back? This question, unspoken, hung heavy in the desert air. The initial report to command was met with skepticism. Blue flashes? Subterranean impacts? The standard response was to attribute it to atmospheric phenomena, or perhaps a localized, unrecorded seismic event. But Carter's meticulous notes, detailing the precise timing, the localized nature, and the distinct percussive quality of the impact, began to chip away at the official dismissals. He meticulously recorded the frequency of the flashes, the duration, and the increasing intensity of the tremors. Each report was a testament to his unwavering commitment to objective observation, his engineer's mind refusing to accept easy answers. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows, the phenomenon intensified. The blue flashes became more frequent, pulsing from various points within the excavated area, painting the twilight desert in fleeting alien hues. The ground beneath them no longer merely vibrated. It pulsed with a low, resonant thrum, a constant, unnerving presence. The air grew thick with an inexplicable tension, a feeling of being watched, of being in the presence of something ancient and powerful. Lewis, his nerves frayed, kept his rifle trained on the shifting shadows, but his gaze kept drifting back to the ground. "Sergeant Carter," he said, his voice hushed. "It's getting warmer. Can you feel it?" Carter nodded, his brow furrowed. He had already noted the subtle but undeniable increase in ground temperature. They had no thermal imaging equipment on site, but the sand, even after the sun had set, retained a warmth that went beyond residual heat. It was as if a massive subterranean furnace was slowly being stoked. This was not a natural occurrence in the cool desert night. Night brought a new, chilling dimension to their experience. The blue flashes, now almost continuous, illuminated the sand in an ethereal glow. They were no longer just flashes. They were streaks, tendrils of light that seemed to writhe and undulate beneath the surface. Lewis, huddled in his foxhole, swore he saw shapes of light moving under the sand, like luminous serpents coiling and uncoiling. His description was met with a glance of concern from Ramirez, but Carter, ever the observer, couldn't entirely dismiss it. The light did seem to possess a strange fluid quality. Unlike static electrical discharges, it moved. It had agency. The next morning, their equipment began to malfunction. Compasses spun wildly, their needles dancing erratically. Radios crackled with static, making communication a frustrating ordeal. GPS devices struggled to lock onto satellites, displaying wildly inaccurate coordinates. Carter immediately recognized the signs of strong electromagnetic interference. Whatever was beneath them, it wasn't just physical. It was generating a powerful field that was disrupting their technology. Specialist Ramirez, a man who prided himself on maintaining order and control, found himself increasingly unnerved. His men, usually stoic and resilient, were showing signs of strain. The constant low hum, the unpredictable flashes, the feeling of something vast and unknown moving beneath their feet. It was taking its toll. Sleep was fitful, punctuated by nightmares of glowing serpents and shaking earth. Carter, despite the growing unease, remained focused on documentation. He used his personal camera, a rugged digital model he carried for surveying, to capture images of the blue light, the shifting sands, the bizarre readings from their malfunctioning equipment. He knew, instinctively, that this was something unprecedented, something that defied conventional explanation. He was driven by a professional compulsion to record every detail, every anomaly. On the fifth night, the intensity reached a fever pitch. The blue lights were no longer merely streaks. They coalesced into pulsing, luminous forms that seemed to hover just beneath the surface, casting an eerie glow that made the desert appear otherworldly. The ground vibrated violently, sending shivers up their spines. The heat emanating from the sand was now undeniable, a dry, oppressive warmth that felt unnatural. Lewis, his voice trembling, pointed towards a particularly bright area. "Look, Sergeant, it's almost breaking through." Indeed, the sand above the most intense light seemed to ripple, as if a great weight was pressing against it from below. A low, guttural roar, muffled by tons of earth, resonated through the air, a sound that was both primal and mechanical. It was a sound that spoke of immense power, of something ancient stirring from a long slumber. This was not merely a phenomenon, it was a presence. Specialist Ramirez, his face grim, barked orders. "Everyone fall back, maintain visual, but keep your distance." He knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that whatever was happening, it was beyond their training, beyond their capabilities. Their mission to install sensors had devolved into a desperate vigil, watching as the Earth itself seemed to come alive. 2 days after the initial flashes, as the sun began to climb into the sky, painting the desert in hues of orange and gold, the hum abruptly ceased. The blue lights vanished. The ground temperature returned to normal. An unnerving silence descended, broken only by the incessant wind. The men exchanged wary glances. Had it finally gone? Or was this merely a lull before something far worse? Their questions were answered not by the subterranean entity, but by the sky. 3 black helicopters, sleek and menacing, appeared on the horizon. They were unlike any military aircraft Carter had ever seen. No discernible markings, no identification numbers. They moved with a silent, predatory grace, descending rapidly towards their position. Specialist Ramirez immediately ordered his men to stand down, their rifles lowered but not holstered. These weren't local forces. These weren't even standard U.S. military. A chilling realization began to dawn on them. The helicopters landed with barely a whisper, their rotor wash kicking up plumes of sand. Figures emerged, clad in dark, unmarked uniforms, their faces obscured by helmets and visors. They moved with an efficiency that bespoke extensive training, their weapons held at the ready. A man, taller than the others, with an air of cold authority, approached Ramirez. "Specialist Ramirez?" The man's voice was flat, devoid of inflection. "That's me," Ramirez replied, his hand unconsciously drifting towards his sidearm. "You and your team are to cease all operations immediately. You will be extracted from this location. All equipment will be confiscated." The man's gaze swept over Carter, then Lewis, lingering for a moment on the camera still clutched in Carter's hand. "What about our mission? What about what we saw?" Carter interjected, his voice laced with a mixture of defiance and fear. The man's head tilted slightly. "There's nothing to discuss. You saw nothing. You will sign non-disclosure agreements. Any deviation from those agreements will be met with severe consequences." His tone left no room for doubt. It was a threat, thinly veiled. Within hours, they were airborne, whisked away in a standard military transport, leaving behind the black helicopters and the now silent, desolate stretch of desert. The area was immediately cordoned off, declared a restricted zone, off limits to all personnel. No explanations were given. No official reports were ever filed about the blue lights, the tremors, or the subterranean entity. Their own meticulously compiled reports, Carter's photographs, Lewis's eyewitness accounts, all vanished. Back at base, they were debriefed, not by their usual command structure, but by a different set of officers. Equally anonymous, equally unyielding. They were made to sign extensive non-disclosure agreements. Their memories probed, their experiences systematically discredited. The message was clear. What happened in that desert stayed in that desert. The official narrative was that a localized seismic anomaly had caused equipment malfunctions, nothing more. But Sergeant First Class Carter, Private Lewis, and Specialist Ramirez knew the truth. They had felt the ground tremble, seen the impossible blue lights, and heard the guttural roar from beneath the earth. They had witnessed something profound, something that defied human understanding, and then watched as it was systematically erased from existence. The silence that followed was far more terrifying than any roar, for it spoke of a secret so vast, so unsettling, that it had to be buried not just under the sand, but under a mountain of lies. The desert wind still whispers, carrying secrets. But some secrets, it seems, are too heavy, too dangerous to ever truly be revealed. What was hitting back in the sands of Iraq in 2005? We may never know the full truth, but the chilling implications of such an encounter and the swift absolute cover-up that followed continue to resonate. If this story has left you with more questions than answers, if it has ignited that spark of curiosity about the hidden corners of our world, then make sure you subscribe to Black Archive and hit that notification bell, because we're always digging for the truth. The incident in 2005 was, in many ways, an anomaly, not because of its inherent strangeness, but because of the sheer scale of the cover-up. Usually, when something truly inexplicable occurs, there are whispers, there are leaks, there are individuals who, despite the threats, feel compelled to share what they know. But in this case, the silence was absolute. It was a silence so profound that it suggested not just a well-executed suppression, but an almost surgical removal of the event from the collective consciousness. It hinted at a level of control, a depth of power that extended far beyond standard military protocols. What was it about that particular encounter that necessitated such an extreme response? Was it the nature of the entity itself, its potential origins, or perhaps the implications of its existence? The blue lights, for instance, were unlike anything documented in conventional physics. They pulsed with an almost organic rhythm, defying known electromagnetic phenomena. Lewis described them as breathing, a chilling detail that suggested sentience, a deliberate act rather than a random energetic discharge. Carter's photographs, though confiscated, reportedly showed intricate patterns within the light, almost like hieroglyphs, shifting and reforming with each pulse. This wasn't merely an energy signature, it was a communication, a language, albeit one utterly alien. And the roar. Specialist Ramirez, a veteran of countless combat zones, described it not as an animalistic bellow, but as a sound that vibrated deep within his bones, a primordial hum that seemed to unravel the very fabric of reality around them. It wasn't just loud, it was resonant, carrying an intelligence, a deliberate expression of power or perhaps of warning. What kind of entity could produce such a sound, and from what depth? The seismic readings, though officially attributed to a localized anomaly, showed a precise, almost surgical oscillation, a rhythmic pulsation that mirrored the blue lights. This wasn't a random geological event, it was a deliberate action, a response. The immediate and thorough nature of the cover-up itself raises further questions. The speed with which the area was cordoned off, the rapid deployment of an entirely separate, anonymous debriefing team, the systematic erasure of all evidence. This wasn't a reactive measure. It felt pre-planned, as if the possibility of such an encounter and the subsequent need for its suppression had been anticipated. This suggests a deeper, perhaps long-standing understanding of whatever lies beneath those sands. Was this the first time such an entity had stirred? Or was it merely the first time it had been observed by personnel who couldn't be easily silenced or dismissed as mentally unstable? Imagine the implications if the truth were known. If humanity discovered that beneath the ancient deserts of Earth, there existed an intelligence, a power that could manipulate light and sound in ways we cannot comprehend, an intelligence that had been lying dormant for untold millennia. The paradigm shift would be catastrophic. Every historical narrative, every scientific theory, every religious dogma would be challenged. The very notion of humanity's place in the universe would be thrown into disarray. Perhaps this is why the silence is so fiercely maintained, not just to prevent panic, but to preserve a fragile sense of order, a carefully constructed reality that might shatter under the weight of such a truth. The localized seismic anomaly narrative is a classic disinformation tactic, designed to explain away the inexplicable with mundane scientific jargon. But for those who were there, for Carter, Lewis, and Ramirez, the truth is etched into their very being. They carry the burden of that secret, a secret that isolates them from the rest of humanity. How do you go back to normal life after witnessing something so profound, only to have it systematically denied? The psychological toll must be immense. They are living proof that the official narrative is a lie, and yet they are powerless to expose it. Their silence, enforced by threat and fear, becomes a testament to the immense power wielded by those who control the flow of information, those who decide what truths are too dangerous for the public to know. The desert, a timeless witness, continues to hold its counsel. It has seen empires rise and fall, civilizations flourish and crumble. It has guarded secrets far older than humanity itself, and somewhere beneath its shifting sands, something still sleeps, or perhaps still waits. The chilling resonance of that deep roar, the otherworldly glow of those blue lights, they are not just memories for a few traumatized soldiers. They are a stark reminder that our understanding of this world, and perhaps the universe beyond, is far more limited than we dare to admit, and that some truths, once unearthed, are deemed too dangerous to ever see the light of day. The Black Archive will continue to probe these hidden corners, to ask the uncomfortable questions, because even in the face of absolute silence, the truth, however buried, always leaves a trace. We invite you to join us in this relentless pursuit, to look beyond the official narratives and to question everything. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy, and some of them, it seems, are buried right here on earth, waiting,